Good evening, everyone. Sorry about that. Back took a little bit longer than I wanted. Before I get started, I do want to make a correction. I was saying VOA earlier when it came to that Facebook group, Veterans on Patrol Alpha Co. Lansky. It is VOP, not VOA. I've corrected it for this stream. I got to go back and correct it, re-edit the things, but I want to make sure I keep everything right, especially dealing with this because like I said, pointed out in the previous video, part one to this, the human trafficking, child trafficking, it's a thing. It's real. It's happening. I mean, as I showed you, shared the link's still in this description, of 160 kids rescued in Atlanta, Georgia, Thursday. This is really happening. And my problem with this whole fiasco, this is what it's kind of turning out. You got a guy out there that's representing this group, and we got it, who is, if he's got evidence, he's holding on to it, he's removed it from the crime scenes. There's a huge problem there. And, I know how things go. I watched other streamers report on this, talk about things, I know how Pizzagate went. Everybody missed the important part, the missing children, the trafficking. B. Rich was one of the first people to really come out there and say, hey, there's really something here. Let's not keep going down these rabbit holes. Look at the missing children's cases. It's what got me so fired up. I just did, for first issue of the magazine, I did an article, When the Children Cry, about the missing children here in the U.S. You compound our missing children with children that are being exported across our borders and through our shipping lanes. I don't want that to go overlooked. It's something very important. As I kind of made, before I ended last video, I kind of touched on how people seem to become numb to this. It's like, oh well, and we can't have that. We should be sharing these things. And I want to apologize to Dabu in advance for bumping heads with his stream. I didn't know he was going live, but it happens from time to time. The whole issues, we got to keep it real. The trafficking happens from our border. We have the cartels pushing drugs. The human trafficking and children trafficking is a $32 billion operation. It involves cartels, and the list goes on and on. As I pointed out in the first video on Monday or Tuesday, whenever I did it, about the issue, it ain't the poor and the middle class that can afford this type of stuff. Not a $32 billion operation for a reason. Only rich people can afford this. And we see cases and cases every week. It goes back to the stuff I was talking about, what's happening in the schools. Every week there's a case. This week there was three. There was one today of a bus driver.
Yeah, I seen that.
That was abuse, but it all falls into the same category when we're talking about children. And it's not something that, that's what pissed me off all week. That's why I really didn't do a video after this. Because I've been researching this stuff with the schools. Then I've seen this pop up. And I've talked about this in the past.
That brings up another topic that I'd like to touch on just real briefly here. And it's going to be very brief, seeing as how we've been talking about our children and protecting our children. A lot of people don't realize one of the number one areas, and it is the number one area, and we happen to be in the time that leads the nation in the highest amount of abductions and people going missing in a concentrated area and that's Virginia Beach.
Oh, yeah.
They have the highest. But now let's take this one step farther. When you look at the overall scope of situations, and this is a twofold argument here. Now let's play the devil's advocate here. If these said places were not a soft target, would said abductions happen if they were not a soft target? Probably not. You can almost bank on it. How many malls do you go to that you see that weapons are not allowed on private property?
Right.
Or on mall property. Therefore, making that a soft target. Beaches, it is the same thing, making it a soft target. So, if we truly, and not that I'm advocating in any way, positive or negative, on the whole gun debate thing, but if we truly wanted to protect our children, you could triple or quadruple the number of law enforcement. That is not going to change a thing. Having people more vigilant about the surroundings and what is going on, yeah, that's going to help a little bit. Having cameras all over the place, that has obviously not helped, because they've tried that all over England. That hasn't helped a bit. And in one of the most secure cities in the nation, if not the world, Las Vegas, Nevada, as you see, has that helped that situation in that community any? No.
Well, to touch even more on that one, because, I mean, especially when we're dealing with the human trafficking part of all this, we're also dealing with the cartels and, just the true scumbags of the earth. I mean, we know Border Patrol agents, ICE agents, cops that have been indicted for taking money, but on the same token, they take money. Why? Because they threaten their families.
Yep.
I mean, this is the type of scum that we're dealing with. We're talking about people that'll fucking cut open babies, stuff them full of drugs, sew them back up so they can ship them across the border illegally.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's been hundreds of documented cases of that. And they do the same thing with... They've done the same thing with dogs, too.
Mm-hmm. I mean, just today, they busted somebody carrying a cabinet that was stuffed full of illegals. I mean, we see the problem. We can't allow ourselves to become numb to this, and we can't allow an organization that's out there, in a sense, because let's keep it real. Let's say they do find some coyotes. They find some people. They can't charge them in court because these guys have tampered with the evidence. They mishandled the evidence. They haven't properly allowed the authorities to come in, document the crime scene, collect the evidence. They've contaminated it, so therefore it's no longer admissible in court. So I have a big issue with what they're doing. I mean, I love the cause. The cause is great. We all should be. I mean, that's the part that really got my blood boiling this week. We all should be fired up about this. But unfortunately, we've got conflicting stories. We've got this guy doing live streams admitting that they've taken evidence from the scene, not giving it to the police. It's ruining, and potentially we're going to jump into the narrative, oh, this is all fake news. It's fake. This don't happen. This ain't happening down there. This is the danger of what's going on down there.
And then something that was alluded in the previous in part 1. And if you haven't caught part 1, you really need to go back and listen to it. The fact of no media presence at all really
Yes and no.
says a lot.
There was actually the local Phoenix or local Tucson news, two news agencies actually went out there and reported it. But that's actually in the link to the video, the first video I did when this first got to my attention before we found out all we found out later this week. But I mean, you'd want to slap the reporter, honestly, the way she reported it. I mean, it was like, oh, happy, giggly, you know. She stayed neutral throughout the whole thing. I'll give her that. I respect that part. But, it was more playing it off like, this ain't it, what it is. But that was the only 2 news agencies. If you believe the one side of the story, well, that's the news agency that Sawyer brought, which Sawyer, from my knowledge and from what I've heard him say, he didn't bring no reporters in. He brought his own crew in. And he personally was there and filmed it, which he has removed every video that he had done from his YouTube channel after he brought out that statement. Because I was waiting for that to see if he actually took it down. Now, did he take it deleted, or did he just set it private? I hope he set it private because, it could still be evidence. And, like I said, there's a conflict of interest there. He's working on a Netflix documentary about all this. So, I don't want to...
Which means if he is working on a Netflix documentary, if he reads the fine print of Netflix, Mr. Sawyer, you might want to read the fine print and then consult your attorney, because within that, it does state that you cannot and must not do any kind of live streaming regarding that or any other topic, even shirt tail resembling that topic at all. That it can jeopardize and lead into that series or documentary, and it can cause all sorts of problems with the series, and it can in fact cause Netflix to turn around and sue him for breach of contract. I know a couple of YouTubers that did have a Netflix deal, and they were out and they started getting harassed by a large police group, one of the largest in the nation, and they were legitimately being harassed because of who they were. And this law enforcement agency knew that they were filming filming a documentary for Netflix, and they baited them into forcing them to go live, and it ended up costing them their contract with Netflix. They were able to do 6 pilot episodes, and that was it.
And the other issue I have, and me and you discussed this privately, I'm not going too far into this with what we discussed, but you have all these people coming out there, allegedly, which I've seen quite a few people, so it's more than allegedly. And we know a bunch of them are armed, which I would recommend if you're going out there, because you're dealing with the scum of the earth. You're dealing with cartels. You're dealing with coyotes that are living. And you're going to come across them doing what they're doing. They're posting up on private property. People's invited them in. So, but the problem is it reminds me of something that happened not too recently. I'm not going to say the name, but I think you guys know where I'm going with this. Because, well, I will go somewhat there because the guy, has talked about, standoffs and stuff like that in some of his videos on Facebook. Like I said, I give the link to the one video that I showed in the first video where, his own admission, he's pretty much committed several felonies that, but you can go to the Facebook, that link will allow you to go to the Facebook and just click on the thing and you can see for yourself. You can listen to what this guy's saying. And it gets to a point where how far do they allow them to keep doing this? Do they want to make this into another Bundy Ranch situation? I mean, to divert what's really going on? I mean, part of me says, a lot of the people that are going there, they're honestly wanting to help children. I respect that. I think everybody should have that personal opinion and feeling about that when it comes to a child. There's something else I didn't cover about this, something that he said in some of his videos, that when they do find these kids, if they find these kids, that they're not going to allow them to be deported. It's like, there is a problem there. There is a chain of command, a chain of system that has to go through the process in order for legal actions to really take place. They said they will allow, them to be recorded by the agencies, but they will give them sanctuary and protect them so they don't get deported. I mean, this whole scenario, the stories that you guys hear about, families coming over, they let one go so they can come up with more money and they hold that hostage. There's documentation of that. That stuff does happen. And I don't want you guys to get caught up.
Read that I just sent you.
Yeah, I've heard that said too.
That is on their that is on their actual Facebook page of their actual description of what they are about. Does that actually sound like a church Christian group to you?
No, and that's the other thing, guys. They're supposedly, and that's the guys that they're using. That's something, if you guys listen to this guy talk, that's also what they're using as, we don't have to get permission. We're a church organization. And I'm leery on how that falls in the legal system. That's a fine line. It can be a two-edged sword a bunch of times when you do that. And, everything about this group, the cause is great, but it stinks. I mean, dude, whoever they got that's doing these videos for them, they need to cut ties with this guy if they're a legit group and really out there to do this. Because, as I've stated, everybody that's involved with this could actually be charged with a crime right now. That's something I want you guys to understand. And I hate saying that because this is a cause that we should be all wanting. This stuff is happening out there. Here's their contact page on Facebook. I want to read this. Alpha Company is the spear tip in combat veteran suicides. As with everything VOP related, we do not accept money and don't answer to our corrupt government. Which, if you watch his videos, he does constantly repeat that. don't send us money. We won't accept it. You want to send gift cards, gear, and stuff like that, we'll accept that. You know, all this boils down to is, like I said, my worry with this, and I've seen it throughout the week take place, you know, when the so-called CEMEX factory, which people start digging in, they say, well, it's got ties to this, ties to that. I don't care about the ties, guys, because that just sends people down rabbit holes. It avoids the real subject. That's something I've been talking about a lot lately. We start compounding on subjects, and we miss the most important part, the part that originally brought us there. We keep compounding on it, creating new things to it. The only thing we should ever care about, these are our children. These are human beings. And you can't deny it's not happening. How many raids, how many arrests in the last year? And where are they coming from? This is a fact. There's only 2 ways to smuggle humans into this country. Well, 3. But we know how airport security is, so. Shipping containers and cargo containers. By water or by border. And most of the human trafficking, drug trafficking, smuggling, everything comes from our border. This is why it will never get mainstream media attention. That's a fact. Because this goes against the narrative. If they start reporting on children being brought illegally across, smuggled across for the sex industry, for sex trade, sex slavery, every American who has a soul will be screaming for vengeance and demanding a border wall, demanding we put more bodies out there. They're not going to want that because it goes against the narrative. So we can't allow this to become another Pizzagate. You know, we can't allow to get caught up, well, because Chelsea Clinton tweeted, this is Pizzagate 2.0. Well, that should be a warning sign right there not to allow it to become that. Stick to the facts. Stick to what's really going on. Stick to the facts. Even, like I said in their previous video, Dabu, the Walmart building in Texas, our border, the worst part is you got to have a strong stomach. I don't care how strong your stomach is. When you start researching this, looking at the evidence, I couldn't share, even screen share, or show pictures of some of the evidence I've seen because it's that graphic, it's that sickening. It makes you want to strangle somebody. This happens. It's happening in my backyard. Just this year in Toledo, it seems like every 3 months they do sting operations, end up pulling children out. Then come to find out some of these children aren't even from here. They're from Russia, China, Philippines, South America, all put into the sex industries as slaves. That's what I want you to understand. I want you to understand, where is this coming from? It is coming from our borders. If we take anything from this week, let's not blow it out of proportion. Let's not say it's fake news and become numb to it so they can sweep it under the rug. Because if you sweep it under the rug, it's just going to keep getting worse. It's just like my issue with what happened in Sandusky, Ohio, with illegal immigrants. Okay, you bust them. Hey, don't stop there. Punish the company. Because they're hiring them so they don't have to pay them what they would pay me, you. These companies are just as guilty when it even comes to the sex trade because they're promoting it. They're giving a market for these coyotes, these cartels to bring these people in. Nip it in the bud. Start holding corporations and people that hire these people just as accountable. And for anybody that wants to go out and do what that group's doing, do not tamper with evidence. You see a skull or what you think is bones. Do not touch it. Do not try to unearth it. Report it. But also know this. I talked about the corruption. I've talked about we're dealing with a lot of cartels. Just not cartels. You're also dealing with major crime organization networks. It's just not the cartels. You're dealing with the Yakuza and all those crime cartels and syndicates. They're all involved in it, one way or the other. And they're going to make sure that their $32 billion operation flows smoothly. You know, I'm not going to sit here and judge anybody that's looked the other way or taken money because they don't have a choice. If they don't, they're going to kill their family. And there's documented cases on this where, hey, you don't, I'm going to set an example. I'm going to kill your family. Now I'm going to give you this money. If you don't take it, I'm killing you. That's how they operate. You know, I'm not going to ever talk bad about the Border Patrol. You want to know why? I know military vets that couldn't hack it. You want to know why they couldn't hack it? And these are vets that served overseas and fought wars. You want to know why they couldn't hack it? Because of the psychological impact of seeing a body here on U.S. soil. That stuff's not supposed to happen here.
It does, sadly.
They would rather be overseas fighting a war than seeing that on our borders. And so many of them wash out of the borderland for borderland security just because when the first time they come across that body here on U.S. soil. And I've talked to several. I've known several. I know a few people that are borderland security now. And we got a problem. You know, I don't get it. Like I said, I was talking to a few of my friends. I don't get why, regardless what this was, turned out to be, real questionable. But there was no shares. It wasn't people. Just, select few. This should have been trending on every social platform. This should have had people so fired up. And it didn't. And that's scary. That's scary because, me and you talked about this. That's why people don't talk about the missing children, the homeless vets. It's why people don't actually talk about this very subject because it's sickening. And it pisses you off. But it's something that should be talked about. Needs to be talked about. Like I said, I'm not going to sit here and say that they didn't find anything. I don't know. But I'm going to tell you flat out, they committed some crimes if they did. They've ruined it. Nobody can be charged. They've contaminated DNA evidence. So you can't even say there was missing children there or women because you've contaminated the evidence. That's a problem. Because in order to get down to the facts, the hardcore facts, you come across a scene like that, you gotta stay out of it, preserve it, protect it, till the authorities come in. Then you gotta trust the authorities that they're going to do the right job. And I showed you a post about, hey, well, it's kind of questionable when it comes to the TPD. I mean, you got to think about this.
Yeah, that brings up that's not unheard of. I looked at a few different things, and there's my thought is I've got a lot more homework I have to do
Mm-hmm.
on this before I can just say that they what their thing is. I have an idea, but until I have all of my ducks in a row,
Right.
and I will throw it out there for anybody that is froggy. And this gentleman has put it in his videos that I have watched over the last hour. He does record all of his phone calls, and he does put them up for his team to go through and disseminate and figure out before he posts them on his quote unquote private page, whatever that is. And then they do post them. If you call the number that they have listed, know that you will be recorded. So I would encourage anybody that does reach out and try to contact them that you will be recorded in one fashion or another. So this guy does seem to have a little bit of legal knowledge, and that state is a one-party state. So they do not need your permission to record you. And it can be admissible in a court of law. So I would be very cautious about and do your homework before trying to just dig into them and reach out and jump on the spear, because that spear can come back to bite you.
Oh,
Do
more
your
ways than one.
diligence. Oh, hell yeah.
Okay, I mean, that's the other point I've kind of missed in my little warnings here about going out there and participating. I wasn't joking about you probably should be armed,
Oh, yeah.
because the first time, and now they have, to my knowledge, they haven't been shot at yet, but the first time they actually interrupt something that belongs to a cartel or a coyote that's linked back to a cartel, there's going to be gunfire exchanged. They
Oh,
don't
big
play.
time. Oh,
There's
yeah.
plenty. I mean, you talked about it just with what happened during the hurricane in Houston. There was gunfire exchanged.
Lots.
When you're, I mean, that's the point I'm trying to make in all this. That's how. This is the reason why I can see people wanting to cover this up, wanting people do like you did with Pizzagate, go down the rabbit holes, ignore the important issues, because you're dealing with every crime syndicate that's pumping human slaves, human trafficking, child trafficking, because it's $32 billion, that's from the feds, by the way, operation. Just here in the U.S. That's to talk about worldwide. And that number alone should piss you off.
And,
Because
that's just a cursory number based on a mid-90s
right.
That does not include what is the current number, which we believe to be much higher. So it very well could be double or triple that
Oh yeah.
by now.
You know, just like that article I shared with you guys, the link's in the description, about the 160 children that they rescued. You know, it's not an easy task for all those agencies. There was like 38 law enforcement and agencies involved just in that case. I mean, we know how well they don't communicate well with each other.
No, they don't.
That's a fact. But we also know that's why they took down Backpage. But even they admit, even when they did come across something like that on Backpage, it was gone within a day. It was only up for so many hours, and they take it down so they wouldn't get caught. This stuff is happening right here in the U.S. You know, it's happening right in your backyards. Now let's add in the missing children, just U.S. missing children. You know, yes, some of them, and this is the shocking part, the low percentage of it are runaways. The rest are abductions that are abducted, put into child trafficking, sex trafficking. I mean, let's not forget, about 4 or 5 years ago, Cleveland, Ohio, people lived in this neighborhood for 8 to 10 years and didn't know that 3 girls were being held in the upstairs attic for over almost 10 years.
I
Being
remember
raped,
that
tortured,
case.
you know.
I remember that.
Right in people's backyards. They didn't even know it was going on. That should be a wake-up call to everyone. We can't tolerate that. I mean, I'm sick. Every time I turn, it seems like I go on the Twitter. Maybe it's because I'm researching this stuff. It keeps popping up. Place I stayed in North Carolina. North Carolina. Arrested a dude for child pornography. And you hear cases like that. Even when I was living down there, you would hear cases. And, I mean, we talk about MS-13. Well, just up the road, up in Blowing Rock, they arrested a couple people that were MS-13 gang. They all have ties in the human trafficking, sex industry. It's what makes the money for them. You know, why would everybody want to turn a blind eye? I mean, yes, we found out pretty much what was reported from the VOP has been very sketchy. I mean, dude, like I said, dude, you're going to use that dude as your spokesman, you're screwed yourselves. You know, and supposedly, if you listen to the guy talk and all the videos that they got posted on the Facebook page, which I recommend, go listen to it, watch it, listen to what he says. You know, supposedly they've got people that are specialists in that area. Well, I can't tell because you've really screwed up. Not to mention, by your own admission, you've committed crimes because of tampering with evidence. You cannot remove evidence from the crime scene or potential crime scene. That's a felony.
And because some of that area is federal, that is even bigger.
Yes, while we're talking about the federal aspect, the one camp, I think the main camp, isn't too far from an Indian reservation.
Yep. I'm quite well aware of that.
Because they had some, you know, in one of the videos, I can't remember which one it was, they're putting out like 3 or 4 a day. But they were talking about where, you know, he was kind of calling out the chief on the reservation. Like, you know, they had knowledge and they're not. So, you know, then if it's a reservation, therefore that is federal land. You know, this whole scenario that's going on, it's just, wow. And the worst part of it is, this stuff's actually happening out there. And that's the problem I got with this guy and this group. Their hearts might be in the right place, but you need professional leadership. you know, because you're screwing it all up to where all these people that did Pizzagate, all these, truther channels, they're going to tear you apart.
Oh,
And next thing you know,
eventually, yep.
when it happens, it's good. Then it'll make mainstream news talking about, oh, this is all fake. This stuff don't happen there. When the fact is, there's too many documented cases that it does. And the fact is, where do you think all the human trafficking comes from? Only 3 ways to get it into the United States.
Yep.
Air, boat, or border crossing. And the biggest percent comes from our borders. And it's much easier to get across the south than it is the north. And there have been documentaries about that. One, you don't screw with the Mounties.
Yeah, that's a quick way to end up in a box.
And they're everywhere across that Canadian border. They're in places where you'd never think they'd be because they're in the woods.
Yeah, remember, I'm not that far from there.
Well, yeah, I grew up with he used to be my bus driver. He became a Mountie. And his whole family were Mounties. And wow, the stories they shared.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, truthfully, our northern border is probably the most secure border, which is kind of weird. And, look up the Coast Guard cases of them finding, and this is usually when we're dealing with the shipping containers and the cargo and the boats and stuff. At least on the Pacific side, it's almost always Filipino, Korean, Chinese being shipped over here.
Yep.
I mean, don't need to name the crime syndicate that's behind that. Then we got the cartels in the south
for that.
Yeah, the Asian, oh boy, their little crime syndicates go deep
and long.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I prefer not to wake up with my cranium expanded.
Right. Yeah, no. That's, the point is, it's happening, guys. So don't let Sawyer, VOP, Alpha Co. diminish the fact that this stuff doesn't happen out there. The fact is, this stuff is happening out there. And the scary fact is, this group keeps pushing and pushing like they are, they're going to eventually stumble onto an occupied area. Then is where things are going to either come to light or they're going to quietly spin this narrative in a whole nother direction and cover everything up and blame it on this group. Like I said, their hearts might be in the right place, but thus far their actions aren't no better than, might as well say, what we're talking about.
Well,
you gotta because they're not handing the evidence over.
What I foresee happening is if they do stumble into something, a firefight happening,
mm-hmm.
and they're going to stumble into something that is maybe much bigger, and they're not going to have the legal ramifications to back them legally.
Right.
And then they're just as guilty as, again, you've got the legal aspects. I mean, yes, they are in effect protecting our borders because some of these guys are veterans and they are upholding their oath that they took.
Right, and I
But
respect that. Before anybody says I don't have respect for vets, I'm talking bad about vets. I'm not talking bad about a single vet. I come from a
but
family of vets.
but at the same token, as soon as somebody gets popped and dropped, then it becomes a totally different situation because they weren't
Mm-hmm.
deputized. To the best of
Right,
my knowledge, they weren't authorized by anybody, to my knowledge, to go out there
right. I
and
mean, right now they're
and
just, as you said, which I forgot to point out, they're just saying, being invited onto people's private land, and they're using the clause that we're a church organization, so therefore you can't stop us.
right.
I mean, just those words alone is red flags. I mean, because you can see this going clear back to what just happened at the Bundy Ranch. I mean, if, like what we just talked about, if shots get fired, they get caught up with some coyotes or some cartel, the police department, the sheriffs, the local agencies that are down there, they're going to demand that they pull out. And this group, by listening to them all week, watching their videos, listening to this guy talk, they're not about that.
Oh no, no, they won't
You
lay
know,
down their weapons.
truthfully, now this probably piss some people off. I like what they're doing on that aspect. We all should be doing it to protect our borders, to bring in attention to it. And I'm not supporting what they're doing at all, because I don't support the illegal stuff that they've done. But the fact is, this is happening. And that, believe it or not, they've kind of stumbled on the right idea. And people aren't going to like that. Agencies aren't going to like that, because it's civilians taking up arms, and as you guys can see how many ways this could get spun if it goes south. We got a bunch of armed vigilantes. We need to take
And
away the guns. You see where this could go.
that's just what I was going to say. As soon as things go south, um, it's they're going to spin it to where they're going to try and go in that exact direction, that these were armed vigilantes, and if they have to call in a guard detachment to try and come in and fish them out,
Kent State all over again.
Yep.
Oh, wait, except for back then, they weren't allowed to have guns on campuses.
Right.
You see, guys, there's so many ways this could go so bad, and if it goes bad, that's going to be the mainstream's narrative. This is why we need to take their guns. This is why we need to censor social media, because they used Facebook platform and other platforms. We had YouTube streamers streaming this, talking about this. This stuff don't happen on our borders. There's no cartels. There's no coyotes. There's no trafficking of humans and children. That's when we'll see the media jump in. And quite frankly, what's going to happen when somebody smarter than me catches the fact that by dude's own admission, he's committed multiple felonies? Can't take that back. It's already uploaded on Facebook. And they go to arrest him, and the sad part is they'll use that as an example to destroy the camps that they've got set up for the homeless. That it'll be just one big mess. Then that'll be the narrative all over, and it will no longer be about the human, the women, the children. And that's the part people need to wake up to. People need to understand. This is happening. And for some of you say, well, where's your proof? Well, here's my proof. Do your research. In fact, click on the link in my description where it talks about Metro rescues 160 children. Read the article. Just happened Thursday. Children as young as 3 years old used for sex and who knows what else. This is why we can't allow this scenario, this whole thing that this group's doing down there to turn into a Pizzagate, to turn into another Bundy Ranch. That's why we need to make sure, I agree with you, make sure if you talk about it, you have your facts, you have your ducks in order. You know, I've heard people talk about, and this is something else that pissed me off, because I've heard it a lot, the judgmental types out there. Well, he's an ex-convict, or he's maybe a sex offender. I don't know, didn't look into it, don't care. Because you want to know why I don't care? Because I knew a man from Michigan. He did 20 years in prison for distribution and trafficking coke. When he got out, he made it his life's goal to make sure nobody followed in his footsteps. He opened up a probation center in Three Rivers, Michigan, for last chance people so they wouldn't go to prison. So they had a place to come. And he made sure that everybody that went through there, his door was always open. He made sure that they needed help with drugs. He even made sure and told people, you got a chance to go to college. He had the right staff. He didn't want to see anybody do what he did. He believed in giving people a second chance. You know, and to this day, that man's never been pardoned for the crimes he committed. But when you judge people because of their past, some people do change. In fact, you should respect that man even more because he's the 1%. The 1% that actually gets out of the legal system, because the legal system is another multi-million-dollar operation that's meant to be a revolving door and keep you in, because they make money off everybody that gets a number. Everybody that's the county jail, they want to keep you in. That's why the probation departments keep flipping them and flipping them. It's almost impossible once you get in the system to get out of the system. I've done so much research on that, talked to so many people about that. I'm going to be touching on the legal system here real soon.
I want to. You left me a perfect segue into the. You touched on it just in a cursory way. There's another group of people that is being trafficked in a way that you never hear about.
Oh, yeah.
And that is the disabled people.
Yep. There was a case just last year in Michigan of a couple that were keeping a disabled female in their shed. And this was going on for like years. I mean, the case was sick. What they were doing to that disabled person, nobody knew. None of their neighbors knew. They lived in a goddamn trailer park and nobody knew.
Yeah. And the case that I'm referring to is regarding Secretary Alizar. He's the Secretary of Human Services. And there was just a protest today out in front of his house in Indiana. And several people from National Adapt actually got arrested in their wheelchairs, mind you. And even some of those people were some people in that are put in these hideaway places in these quote unquote nursing homes and places like that that you never see of or hear of are trafficked and used for grotesque things. And you don't ever hear about that.
Right.
And this is another one of those things that needs to be brought to light.
Yeah, I'm actually looking for an article right now on Ice Agent.
And you almost never hear about the disabled getting trafficked, where they, or that the fact that they get transported to specific places and they're forced in to endure massive amounts of shock trauma because they don't understand specific things. And then after they've been so badly mentally and physically and psychologically damaged, then they get turned out for slaves for out of these specific quote unquote care centers for these perverted people. And you don't ever hear people talk about that. Nobody ever wants to talk about that.
I mean, like how many people are talking about the former defense contractor sentenced to 6 years for engaging in commercial sex with a minor in the Philippines?
Yeah, I seen that, and I was like, really? How much lower can you actually get? You're supposed to be representing this country, and you're going to go and commit an egregious felony in a foreign nation.
A foreign nation that is known as probably in the top 5 ranking to be dealing when it comes to sex trafficking and human trafficking.
And they're also known to be in the top 3 as the most cruel in prison. And the only thing that I can say to that ICE agent is I hope he enjoys his time in prison should he survive it, because I'm quite sure that he will do his time in a Philippines prison. I didn't get a chance to read the article because my week has been like chaos on steroids.
About like mine, you see, I started a live stream and out of nowhere something comes up and I had to leave. That's the way my last 2 months have been.
That's pretty much why I've not been on. And just when I get ready to get my notes together, and very rarely do I ever put notes together to do a live stream, but then it happens. And generally I just kind of shoot from the hip, and whatever comes to mind at the time, I go with it. But it is what it is. And that's how I tend to roll.
While we're talking about the Philippines, let's talk about the other billion-dollar operation that actually comes out of the Philippines, and that's the trafficking of ghost guns.
That one we probably need to save because I've got more. I've got more stuff that regarding weapons and things of that nature that we need to reserve for
Yeah, I want to keep
the
this strictly to what it was, but I'm just pointing out all that shit comes through our borders.
exactly.
While we discredit basically that group that's out there for their actions, that's what I'm discrediting is the actions that they've videotaped and admitted to. Not discrediting the cause. The cause is great. The cause is very important. Everybody should jump on board on the cause, but do it right. Don't do what they're doing. Because
Right.
what they're doing is going to land people in jail. What they're doing is probably going to end up in, push comes to shove, they're going to probably, we'll see this, another Bundy Ranch situation out of this. Just by dude's rhetoric and the way he talks. You know, that's the danger when...
I hope you're wrong on this one, but...
Oh, so do I.
You know,
but I can't be the, I'm not the brightest tool in the shed, but I can't be the only one that listened to what he had to say and didn't say that was a felony.
Right.
On so many levels.
It was a felony, and I did a cursory look under Arizona law, and it is actually a Class B felony. Up to 15 years. Because that is disturbing a crime scene, and because by definition that is a crime scene, so that is a homicide scene, then
potentially they did mess with the homicide scene,
right? Then it could actually be a I'm going to play devil's advocate for a second and say, what if this person had, for whatever reason, had to have their teeth surgically removed because of a genetic disease or whatever, and there was that at a young age, and for whatever reason, but there is that possibility because there are genetic disorders that has to happen, but those diseases are rare, but not uncommon, and but it is plausible and it is possible. Either way, he still disrupted a potential crime scene, which under Arizona law was a Class B felony. So at either flip of the switch, it is a problem.
Right.
So he could end up with problems.
And who's not to say they don't say, well, somebody says, a rancher says, well, that's my land. Then then you're starting to open up another door, because now they might say, okay, since it's your land, it's your property, we're going to hold you accountable.
Exactly.
This is what I want people to understand. It's not that I don't support what they're, the idea of what they're doing. I'd like to see more of it, honestly, people, because this stuff's happening. But I also like to see you doing it in your own backyards. You can go to your local Walmart or your local convenient grocery store, and they have bulletin boards still where they post the missing person flyers from your area. Do you guys know that?
Yep.
Most people, you walk by it all the time. It's right there by the registers, usually. As you're walking by, the one in my area in particular is right by the bathroom. You can't miss it. But most people just walk right by and don't even see it. Don't stop to look. This stuff is happening right in your backyards. Don't be the families that, like there was in Cleveland, or as I just spoke recently, of the trailer park, where we didn't know this was happening. How could something like this happen? And you live right next to the people. Don't be those people. Understand, and many levels this is, you should be talking about things like this in your communities. Pointing the stuff out. Hey, did you see all these missing children and people? There's not children, there's adults on there too. But majority of them are children under the age of 18. I mean, that's the whole thing. It's got me so pissed off about this group and pissed off at certain people for how they've started, going down the rabbit holes or instantly discrediting all of it because, well, there's no evidence, or, as I pointed out, he's committed felonies. The whole group has. Whoever was there has committed a felony by withholding evidence, by taking evidence from a crime scene or potential crime scene. Now, sure, somebody's eventually going to call his bluff, because he might be bluffing. For some odd reason, I don't get that interpretation that he's bluffing.
No, I don't either.
And this thing's just going to spin so many different ways, and we're going to lose focus of the real issue, the human and child trafficking that's going on in there. And, I mean, everybody knows the drugs are coming through there. They rather talk about the drugs that are coming through there so you don't focus on the real crime to humanity.
And that's where a firefight is going to originate. It is when they come upon a group of coyotes packing major amounts of narcotics and whatnot. That's where a firefight is going to start at.
We need to also point out here, while we're talking about this, most people think when we're talking about them trafficking narcotics, that they're carrying it in a backpack and stuff. Oh, no. That's the other reason why this human trafficking thing is a multi-billion-dollar operation, is because the mules are humans. The mules are the kids, the women. They make them swallow the stuff in balloons so they can smuggle it across in case they get caught up by immigration so they don't lose the dope.
Yep. But
many horrible. Then anybody wants to research on that, you'll find the horrifying cases and pictures and evidence of how they sometimes remove it.
Yep.
Especially if they're not pretty. The pretty ones usually end up in the sex trade. Yep. The ugly ones, if they don't have no other use for them, well, they just gut them.
Yeah. And that is there's verified proof of that. You can email the Juarez PD or any of the cities right close to the border. You can email them. Email any of the cold case departments and ask them about that, or the media relations department in any of those cities and states regarding that. And some of them will be forthcoming with photos and verification of such. I can verify this firsthand. It is not pretty, and they do the same exact thing with animals as well.
Yeah.
So this is bigger than what most people can wrap their heads around.
I mean, like I mentioned about the people the car they pulled on that was hauling that cabinet that was loaded, had people stuffed in the cabinet trying to smuggle them across the border. I mean, about 3 weeks ago, there was a case of two cases. It happened twice in the same week, where they pulled over a semi-trailer that was loaded with what they called illegal immigrants. Well, let's keep something real here, because not all of them might. Nobody knows where their destination was to, and there's plenty of documented stories as well about how those coyotes operate. You know, a lot of the young women and children, they might not have reached their destination. They'd say, send the men out, well, bring us $45,000 or whatever. Then you can have your daughter back or your wife back. True cases,
Yep.
guys, true stories. It's happening, you know, but they want to spin it, oh, there's a bunch of illegal aliens that got busted at the border. Not all those illegal aliens were going to be released to go to some sanctuary city. And, you know, let's not even go down that route with the sanctuary cities, because they're also harboring this type of stuff. It's a safe zone for them to drive in through and operate out of. See the problems that we're bringing up, the real issues we're bringing up, the real issues that they don't want you talking about. They want you to focus on, okay, this group screwed up. And, you know, there's always that possibility that they might have made this all up. I'm not saying they did or didn't. That's a possibility. Just to draw attention, to get people to come in. You know how it works. I mean, we're dealing with vets, so let's keep it real. Some of those vets have worked clandestine operations. What better way to draw attention and bring in more people to actually do something that they believe in? I could see that. Not saying that's what they did, but, you know, I can play devil's advocate too. That is one way to do it. Another way to do it, we're a church organization. We're, you know, people are going to jump to help. And people should jump to help in cases like this. People should get fired up and mad. Not retweet a single article about it. You know, I got 159 followers. I can count on one hand how many people retweeted the videos I've done about this, or the links I've shared about this. I even shared Craig Sawyer's retraction. Because, you know, hey, red flag. But I also had my own 2 cents to throw in there, because, you know, he has a conflict of interest too. You know, because, like I said, he took the video down, but he did a live stream the day before, and he said, yes, that was found there, yes, that was there, and yes, that was there, but no, I didn't see. Now, he did say there was no condoms, there was no lube, and stuff like that. He didn't see that, but he's seen other things, but he retracted all of it, because, you know, supposedly he had documents from the PD, which, you know, me and you brought up a question, how long does it take a forensic scientist to determine age, sex of a human remain?
And again, my initial question is why was the original video? Why did they not show the cargo container?
They did.
Or any? Yeah, see, I didn't get to see that.
That's because Craig Sawyer removed him. Craig Sawyer is the one that had the video evidence of that. I don't know if the video is on YouTube, but there's a video evidence of it. But like I said, that's why dude was basically in that little video, 7 minutes in on the link I have here, was talking about Craig Sawyer, because he came in there with the production crew, his crew, and took videos. It was titled on, so I mean, you go back to the first video I did, because I got it on there, his page with those videos. Some creepy something, I can't remember. It was titled Creepy something. And he had the video, clear down to the video of the rape tree. And he even said what he saw there raised a bunch of flags and was similar to things that they've seen and reported about enough for him to contact the federal agency, the FBI's and all them. That's Craig Thor's own out of his own mouth. He took the videos down. So, but as we know, you read the terms of service on YouTube. You can, even if you delete a video, it's still here on YouTube, archived.
Yep.
So, if it ever goes down that route, hey, investigations do come up, take place. Those videos are still here on YouTube.
No, they're up. There's if you go back in the Wayback Machine, you can still pull them up.
And how many people actually? I know people out there that downloaded it, so and screen shared it. You're not getting. There's no. It's there.
Yeah,
so,
it's out there, but I think we'll what we need to do is because it's going to take. I just got a message from my contact. He can't get access to the information that I requested tonight. He's having computer issues. He's gonna actually have to go to the office across town and access it from the mainframe tomorrow morning. And I won't be able to get back with him until probably midday tomorrow at the soonest. And that's if we're lucky, because he's working on I'm actually working on a couple big projects with him as well. And there's so much to this.
Right.
And we really need to get to the nuts and bolts of this case. I mean, yeah, there's a ton of red flags to this.
Every way you look, there's potential for, my point is I don't want this to become
a Ruby Ridge.
Or Ruby Ridge or any of that stuff. I don't want it to be used by mainstream media to say the stuff ain't happening. Because the facts are, there's so many facts to back this up. It does happen out there. This is, and the sad part of it is, eventually, these guys are going to stumble across a group of coyotes, and there's going to be a firefight. Because eventually, the first time they really interrupt something, that was the other red flag.
Yep.
Because if they would have actually, saying that stuff that they did find earlier this week that they claimed, if it was in operation prior to them showing up, or it was something that was being used, you just screwed with the criminal organization. You screwed with the cartel's money, and they're not going to play. Thus far, there's been no exchange of fire that we've heard of. So it makes you think that, well, they really haven't stumbled on a real camp yet, or caught up with people that's got them. Because once they do and interrupt that supply, and I hate calling it supply because humans aren't supply, they're not cattle. But that's the terminology that they use. Then things are going to heat up.
And it's going to turn, it's definitely going to turn into something completely and totally different. And I hope they have the heads up to notify the appropriate authorities immediately. Because I do know that there are military entities in the area.
Oh, yeah.
And I hope they have the heads up to notify those entities if they encounter something of magnitude, because the military is going to be able to mobilize much faster than the law enforcement in this case.
See, but that brings up another good point. You made a great point, but what if this falls under the Chicken Little category, or the boy that cried wolf too many times?
Yeah.
Are they going to respond instantly, or they're going to, oh, it's that group. We get there when we get there.
Yeah, I thought about that before I said it.
And we also know we're dealing with that area. You're also dealing with a lot of cartel influence, a lot of money flowing between hands. But if it's, you know, you got to talk about all the possibilities, the what ifs, what's not, all the scenarios when we're dealing with subjects like this, because the fact is there's documented cases of it.
Oh yeah, and there a lot of it. You know,
maybe
and
that, you know, another reason for them to look the other way while something happens. I see, guys, that's the problem with this. I mean, it's just wow. I'm talking, you know, let's talk about opening up the fucking hornet's nest. Essentially, we've got a hornet's nest here.
Yeah,
we got a hornet's
really,
nest that has all kinds of truth, tons of facts. Then we got the what ifs. We've got, man, dude, you screwed up. You know, you violated the law. You've done things that just ruined it for any convictions, or even to be able to say that DNA evidence, so this was a child, missing people that had DNA in their evidence, you know, DNA submitted for the missing children's searches and stuff. You can maybe some of them have been through there. Well, guess what? You just contaminated the DNA evidence. I mean, there's so much that's I don't get it. I mean, I really don't understand what's going on with all this. And you know, we know how it's going to be. We deal with our own communities. We know. I'm sure you've seen, just like I've seen, how people just started dividing over it. And going down that hole.
The other possibility here is that if they stumble into something big, that this could potentially, depending upon how far, because they're only going on an east to west grid at the moment, that according to one of their last videos 10 hours ago, that the possibility of them stumbling into something massive and potentially violent.
Well, they're already talking about they're doing this out now, but they want to go north into the canyons, into the higher ground, and that's where things are potentially to go bonkers and haywire and south.
Right. And if once they get up into that higher elevation, that once they get up there and they got eyes up there, that the potentiality for things to go incredibly bad, incredibly fast, what's to say they're not going to stumble across payoffs between the ranchers, the government, the military, border patrol.
Which there is document cases of that for people that didn't know that. There's document cases of whole towns being bought out by the coyotes and the
Yeah.
traffickers, ranchers, to use their property. They're paying them, which, you know,
Right.
it's paid through
That's what
fear,
I'm
because if you don't, we're just going to kill you all.
exactly. That's what I'm saying. What happens when they come across something of that nature and they cross onto somebody else's property, and that may not be as friendly, and because they've been paid off,
Or they play the friendly game to lure them in.
Yep.
And once they're comfortable, I mean, there's so many ways this whole thing can go sideways.
Exactly. You know? So, I mean, you in effect, you are looking at the potential for a firefight. And I would look for things to happen in that area more at night than during the day.
Right. Well, now they're actually, because I've watched some of their, like I said, I've been following them, because I'm not going to stop following them, because it's important to keep on top of them.
Right.
Now more than ever, they're starting to operate more and more at night.
Right.
And that's where the trouble is going to come in, because, you know, that's desert land, pretty much rugged desert climate. Coyotes and smugglers aren't going to run during the day. They're going to do it at night. So the more and more they start venturing out at night, more and more chances. You know, it's like, wow. But I will, you know, from what I've watched, as somebody that knows strategy, knows how to coordinate, read maps, and all that good mumble jumbo, guys. They know. You can see that they are vets. They've got that knowledge. You can see that military training. You can see them. So they're not out there blindly doing everything. But are they? I mean, it goes back to what I said. I mean, look who's representing him right now, and the things that he says. How much leadership is really there? And then most people are going to look at this dude now, which I know I didn't help the matters on this any, but I'm telling you my opinions and my views, what I see, and look it up, research it. You can't argue with anything I said when I say he's broken the law. And I hate to say that because, I mean,
it's cold fact. It is irrefutable evidence. The videos do not lie.
Right. In some ways, I think that, and there's another scenario. They may be letting him do it, giving him enough rope to hang himself.
Yep.
Because they can remove all the homeless veteran camps that they've set up out there. I mean, it's like I said, to people that want to jump on this,
other rabbit hole,
or want to go out there to help, know what you're getting into.
They did put a call out for people to show up.
Every video they're telling people to come out. We need more bodies.
And I was like, yeah, this sounds like an Oregon Ruby Ridge honeypot, if you ask me.
Right. I mean, my first video I did call to action. But in my video, because I went back and watched it, and I hate watching, and I actually hate listening to my own voice. So I don't edit it.
But
I decided to leave it up for the fact that I was me. And most of my followers know how I give you my opinions, my views, what I think. Nowhere in that video did I tell anybody to go out there.
My caution, and I state my reputation on this. you know, you need to do your due diligence, and you need to research anytime an organization or entity puts out a call for help, especially in situations like this. You need to do your due diligence, and you need to do research on the entity that you are willing to jump into, um, with open arms, and you need to look it up, and you need to research that entity,
Hmm.
top to bottom, front to back. You know, I did like the one little video that he did that in Walmart, that for transparency, um, buying some of the things that he did buy with the gift cards. I did like
Right.
that. You
I didn't
know,
have no problem with what else he said in the earlier video that he did, about what we don't use or give. That goes back to the homeless vets at the camp.
right,
We'll
and
give
I
them.
like that.
I don't have a problem with that. It should. But
But
yeah, you're
Walmart,
right. Due diligence on this.
Walmart didn't like that he was videotaping it, but Walmart can KMA. I've done the very same thing, and they don't like my video cameras, but I really don't care. It's they sell them, therefore anything that they sell can be used in their store. Um, just a matter of principle and how you wish to use it. You just have to know within the parameters of how to go about doing it, and knowing the rules within the state that you are doing it in, and knowing them rules and regulations front to back. Um, Otherwise, they can hang you, because that is technically private property. Um,
Right.
and it's very sketchy as to filming in Walmart. Just so that everybody knows, that is a very quick way to get thrown out of the store and banned for life. Unless you are, as long as your video is not capturing anybody on anybody's personal images, if you are only videotaping the transactions, then you are fine. If you see security manhandling somebody, something of that nature, then you are well within the right. Law enforcement manhandling somebody unjustly, that's questionable. There are certain parameters that
Right.
you can legally film in Walmart. Just throwing that out there for people. But anytime you are going to jump into wanting to help an entity out like that, and you're willing to travel across country or across your state to go and volunteer for something like that, you need to find out what if they're a 501c3 tax exempt organization, and do all the backtracking for the previous year. You need to do every little bit of backtracking, period, for at least every little bit of social media events that they've done, every little video. Even they typically have one person listed by name. You need to find out everything. When in doubt, sometimes your local law enforcement can be of help in finding things out about the group. if you have question about them, the legitimacy, talking to local church groups, generally you can get a lot of information about a particular group, if they are legit or not as well. You know, there's a lot of tools, and if you want to, if you've got questions about how to find out if a group is legitimate, you can find me at FSPN Free Spirit on Twitter. Feel free to add me, ask me questions. I generally respond usually within 10 to 15 minutes if I can. I'm not on Facebook much. I do have a Facebook page, Free Spirit Press News. You can feel free to inbox me there, and I will get back to you within a couple of hours. Either myself or Drew will answer you, and if he doesn't have an answer, he will get with me and say, hey, there's a question you need to answer in Facebook relatively quick. And I will get with you. And if it's something I can't answer via typing, leave your phone number in the box and I will personally call you at my earliest possible convenience. And we can do that. And I can help you. As far as this group, I don't know anything about them, but I am working on it.
That's it. What I just went to look. Now, because they're from Dudes on a Mission, this is pretty much like a church group, you know, and it's an organized group. I know this for a fact because I run 3 groups on Facebook, or 3 pages on Facebook. And if it's an organization, a church group, it should be, they should have the verified mark, and they don't have a verified mark on that account.
Right, and that was the first thing I looked for was a verified mark.
You know, like my one page, I actually can get it verified because it's a business, but I haven't verified it because it's pretty much, well, yeah, my name's on the list, as on the contracts and stuff, but it's not. It's back when we was building our own website and platform and servers, working on server ends and stuff that we no longer doing. So I never worried about getting it verified, even though that KOTR in itself is a verified, legit business just on my end. You know, just like Sons and Daughters of Liberty, I could verify it, but it's not an organization. It's not a business. It's this. It's about us, we the people. It's about talking about things like this, talking about our freedoms, our liberties, you know. Like I said, and if you listen to Dude, he's got some knowledge because, you know, he talks about, this is, you know, my church. It's a group of my church members. It's some church organization that's out here. The way he words certain things, he's not dumb. You know, just like with how you were talking about, you know, making sure the receipts and stuff, videotaping the evidence, you know, he has to. Just like when you'll hear him mention, don't care what your political affiliations are, what your politics are, you know, because then he usually follows it up, we are a church organization. Understand that. You know, I don't like when stuff like that gets used because it's like using a loophole.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, and I don't want anybody to misinterpret that I don't think what's happening out there is important. It's very important. I want to stress that. I don't want you to be numb to this because this is happening. There's too many other documented cases indictments and stuff of this happening out there, just not in Arizona, Texas, California. Right in your own backyards, this stuff is happening. And that should fire you up and want to demand action. Want the proper authorities to deal with it. Or, if they're not going to deal with it, the community needs to. They need to bring notice, awareness to these issues. But don't go out there blindly and get caught up in stuff that's being illegally done. Know the laws of every state that you're going to work out of. Know the federal laws. It's important. So when you come across something like supposedly they did, or alleged, I can't say supposedly or allegedly on this one because he got documentation of his own voice saying they have evidence. They've removed evidence. And by doing so, his own admission is they broke the law. They violated the law.
And maybe the biggest one here, because you're going into desert terrain where there are you've got a lot of not just a lot of snakes, but you got the top 3 most venomous snakes in North America.
Yep.
So you are going to be armed. You need to know, most importantly, probably the biggest, most important thing of all, you need to know what the firearms laws are in that state. And every state that you are going to be going through, you need to know what the laws are in that state and in that jurisdiction. You need to know what the laws are, because you don't know. You could be committing a Class A felony by the weapons you may be carrying or wanting to bring in. You could be committing a Class A felony because you are within 100 miles of the border.
Well, yeah. Here's something you guys all need to understand. But that said, you are within 100 miles of the border. Also know this, constitutional law does not apply.
Exactly.
Understand that.
So, I mean, you are dealing with so many what ifs and what fors that you cannot possibly fathom how many things can go horribly sideways, that it's scary. So you need to know the state.
Well, not to mention that, if you're going to travel from your state, every state you cross while transporting your firearms, you're going to need to know their laws.
Yeah, and when you depart your state, your weapon have the best advice that I've found, because I travel a fair amount. The best way to travel interstate, even in your own personal vehicle, is to run a bore lock in your firearm, whether it's a pistol or a long gun, is a bore lock and a trigger lock in a locked case in the trunk or in the far back of your vehicle.
Separate from your ammo.
And your ammo cannot be in a magazine. It must be in the original factory box, not in a ammo can.
And I know a lot of states that if you carry ammunition, it cannot be in the same space as the weapon.
Nope. It can be locked in an ammo box, but it has to be in the original store box that it was purchased in. Otherwise, they can catch you up on that as well.
Yeah, I mean, this whole, like I said, guys, I can't even tell you how many ways this can be bad.
So, I mean, these are just cursory things that you need to know when traveling interstate to save you extra time, so that an officer doesn't have to go racking your gun and playing with your gun. Whereas if they see that you have a bore lock inserted in your weapon and a trigger lock installed on your weapon, all they have to do is look at the serial number and then inspect your magazines, see that your magazines are empty, and inspect your ammo can and see that your ammo can is also locked. And it saves a lot of, it literally cuts that time by at least 3/4, literally. Some states it's a little more hairy depending upon the weapons in question. Some states they just are complete jerks about it, and they're going to want to crucify you to the wall for no matter what you've got, and it doesn't matter because they're of the
While
narrative.
we're on the law topic, this just came to my mind. Since dude's now allegedly, I'm going to say allegedly here because there's no proof that he's not. He may be bluffing when he says he has evidence. There's always a possibility of that. I doubt it. I just have a feeling that he did, as he said. I want you guys to understand this, and I want to ask you this question. Now that people are sending money, and this is, by dude's own admission, a church organization, since we're dealing with an organization now, if he's committed any crimes out there, could RICO apply?
If he has committed under the guise of a church organization and such, if he is their quote unquote spokesman and or leader, then RICO is I've been seeing that term thrown around so much in the last 30 days. And how many cases have you actually seen that actually those charges actually stick?
Very seldom. Unless we're dealing with mobs. I mean, I don't think that anything outside of a mob or a criminal organization where a RICO case outside of it has stuck.
They've actually got those 6 MS-13 guys that were just arrested up in Baltimore. Those guys are actually all facing RICO, federal RICO charges, and those actually are going to stick.
Okay. Well, I know, because usually, it falls just on criminal organizations where RICO actually sticks. But, that's why I'm asking, because, dude's claiming it's an organization, and you got people sending money. Well, not sending money, but guys, I don't care. If you're sending a gift card, that is considered currency.
Yep.
That's a form of currency.
Yeah. I mean, it takes a certain amount of money, but if it's happening over a repetitious period of time, then I believe that and there is a plethora of charges that are stacking up, and they're continually using these gift cards, then yeah, I could see where, and if they keep harboring on saying keep them cards coming, then that is by definition that it would be a form of that, and that could fall under the RICO. But they would have to almost bring them in, pull them into federal court.
Well, see, that's the thing. You brought up, you hit on a very important topic. They're within 100 miles of the border. Constitutional law don't apply.
But they're still in the state of Arizona.
True.
And the state would have to sign off in order for, or the feds would have to say, we have all of these much higher charges, and we are stepping in. And
okay, let me give you a scenario that I'm getting at. We talked about it. Say a firefight takes place.
That automatically quantifies if several people on both sides become a fatality, and say the ringleader manages to somehow stay alive, then he is an accessory to at the very least manslaughter, and or capital murder. Capital crimes could definitely fall into play. Depends on how the Department of Justice would want to play this.
Yeah, because we're dealing with so many different agencies, so many groups, because we have borderland security out there.
Well, you've got I'm sure there's some BLM land that they're also skirting onto as well.
I don't know about that, but I know there's some BLM land out there. I don't know if they scurried onto it or not. Thus far, all I know is from what I've watched, the land, well, I can't say that. I mean, where they're staying at and the people where they're setting posts up, thus far, from what they say, is private ranchers that's invited them on. But yes, they're trapped. They're out there roaming around, following these trails. So yes, there's good possibility they may have stumbled across some BLM land too. So I mean, it's like, damn. The more you start talking about it, the more you start running scenarios of what if. Look what pops up.
I mean, there is the likelihood that they're going across onto other people's land, and BLM land, tribal lands, which is that's a totally different set of laws there. And what if, and let's just say, what if that skull potentially, even though they said that it was still damp or wet and in a state of decomposition, what is to say that that was not potentially native native land, and or native burial land that they are trespassing on. And so, and if that's the case, you have a totally different set of problems in and of itself for the U.S. Marshals to deal with. That then you also have the Bureau of Indian Affairs, which is controlled by the BLM. Yeah, and you don't want me to go down that rabbit hole.
Well, no, you don't want to go down that rabbit hole. Just for a simple fact is, let's say they stumble across what's hypothetical here, theoretically, they stumble across a compound and find people, get involved in a firefight, turns around, it's on BLM land. Do you think they're going to allow that to become talked about?
Oh, hell no.
That this camp was actually on BLM land? I mean, let's keep it real.
Yeah, right. I mean, there's a whole. You're going down a rabbit hole that unfortunately I don't have the time to go into. I have to be up at like.
Right, I'm getting ready to wrap this up too. Because,
I've got a 4 a.m. Briefing. So it's gonna be a real short night for me.
Right.
But
that's the thing. I don't want to be going down rabbit holes when the issue at hand is.
But the issue at hand is this is a fringe group, and I'm going to call it right down the middle at this point with the information that I have in front of me. This is a fringe group and that eerily resembles like the Waco, a David Koresh type group.
I mean, that's basically irrelevant. In a sense, I can't argue there. It has that cult following type to it now, which is just something else, another rabbit hole to distract from the real issues, that the truth and the facts. The truth is, this stuff is happening out there. That's the fact. There's plenty of documentation that says so.
And if you really want to be honest, David Koresh was trafficking children, and that just came out that he had fathered 96 children.
Yeah, I've seen that.
And there was just a fraction of them got out. I mean, that in and of itself, not to say that this church that this dude and his group is with is anything like that, but the military-esque order, it is very much so like that of the Waco incident.
I mean, that's the other thing, guys. Don't take our words for it. We've given you our opinions and our views, which I think, for the most part, other than our theoretical scenarios, when I say scenarios, have been factual, based on facts, based on researchable evidence that you can research and find documentation on. We're bringing awareness to the situation because we don't want to see it become another Pizzagate, another Ruby Ridge, another Waco. Because there's a real issue here that needs to be talked about. There's also the fact that listen to what this guy, go watch his Facebook videos. Listen to him. Listen to the words he says. Listen to how he says them. The cadence.
Yeah.
How he uses certain phrases at certain times. That's what drew red flags to me.
Certain Bible passages. That
how
also, it's interesting. Certain Bible passages that he constantly keyed in on were eerily similar to that Koresh used.
right. Well, and then I've also noticed, I think a lot of people are going to listen to him and they're going to hear the military jargon and blow it off as it's military jargon, which it is not. The way they're wording things and phrasing things, that's not military jargon. That's not. Do not misinterpret that because, we're dealing with vets and stuff. It's the way he words them and puts the words and vocalizes them out in sentences that have a whole lot of meaning that makes you want to say, oh, wait, hold up, something's not right here. And most people say, oh, they're just, they're vets. They talk like that. Yes, they will use terms like compound, HQ, but it's the way they use the word compound that bothers me.
And the specific scriptures that that he referenced were very interesting. Isaiah 35:15, I think, was one of them that he referenced. And that was a war-related scripture.
Uh-huh. I've heard a few of those things he said. Normally when I hear, the scripture parts and stuff, when I'm researching and doing stuff, I tend to tune it out, just like, I tuned out the fact that, they do call themselves a church organization.
But it's those little itty bitty, and it's the tonality, and the conflection or the convection of his voice, how he's saying it, that it is very interesting. That it should raise some immediate question. What we're saying here, folks, is if you're thinking about going out there, you need to go and pull the jacket on this group. Figure out what exactly they are really and truly all about. Do your own research.
Yeah, do not. This is where I agree. Do not take our word for it. Don't take any other streamer's word for it. Because I know they've got a YouTube streamer that's actually embedded in their group now. And I'm waiting, because I'm not saying his name or his channel, because I'm waiting to see when he gets, because he's only supposed to be there till tomorrow. Then he's going to upload everything that he's documented. So I'm waiting for that. And I also know another YouTuber that's supposedly going out there, but, it's a YouTuber. We know how these communities are. One person says bad about this person. Oh, you can't, no, you guys all know I don't play that game. But supposedly Defango is going out there.
Oh, boy!
And I know I do know some people's opinion on him. Me personally, I don't follow him, so. But, there is some people that's trying to go out there, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, do your own research. Don't believe everything we're saying, but listen and question. Because this should make you start to question things, just the things we talked about tonight in this video and the first one. Formulate your own opinion, your own view. Then, as we've stated, know the laws or lack of certain laws. Like, closer you get to that 100-mile radius of the border, the fact that you'll be giving up your constitutional freedoms.
And you'll actually be under international law.
Right. You need to know these things. I mean, because like I said, I 100% support anyone that's about doing it right, talking about human and child trafficking, bringing more awareness. Just not this issue, the missing children, because the missing children fall into this category too. Same with our homeless vets, the homeless. All this falls into this category, this dark pit of category that nobody wants to talk about, because a lot of these people end up being abducted for trafficking, for sex slavery.
And it all ends up and they all end up in one place.
Right. And it's important that we do never allow anything to distract us from the core issue. And this is the core issue. I'm just pointing out things that's bothered me with all sides of this. Even the sides where I see people that goes into the Pizzagate thing. Or let this be warning enough. Chelsea Clinton tweeting, Pizzagate 2.0. This is Pizzagate. Her exact tweet was, Tucson has become Pizzagate 2.0.
Yeah, I was just talking to somebody yesterday afternoon or this morning. I had actually lost count, and I don't generally lose count on things like that of the body count.
Yeah.
But I'd actually lost count, and you know, for all you out there that are most likely going to catch the replay on this, there was as most people know, I don't have any love for Alex Jones. Never have, never will, never have any hold any credence to anything the man says.
Right. I have my own opinions on that, and I'll keep them to myself.
I'm going to speak.
But, I'll put it this way: I do not support Alex Jones. Do not support Infowars. That's all that needs to be said from my end.
But
I told you why I don't.
There was a snippet posted within hours after Anthony Bourdain was reported as suicided. That Anthony and Elon had a rendezvous in Morocco. And all I'm saying is that y'all need to be watching and paying attention to if anything happens to Elon, that it is most likely not an accident.
Right.
And because he is not a fan of the Clinton Foundation or the Clintons, and neither was Anthony Bourdain. And it was at that moment in time that I realized that I had lost count of the body count associated to the Clinton Foundation, the Clintons, and such. And if we look at the number of people, the celebrities, and those that work in high levels of government just in the last year, between the government and the entertainment industry in the last year, that have just up and suicided themselves for no apparent reason.
Now.
You know,
Benningfield.
Yep.
Oh, by the way, two people that were speaking out about some of the very same things we're talking about tonight.
Yep. Exactly. My point exactly. And so, know your enemies know who you're talking about and the evils that you're fighting. Because if you don't, that evil is going to be right in your face, and you ain't going to be able to do anything about it, because that evil is deadlier than any snake, because the snake has many heads.
Yeah, the reason some people might wonder why I pointed out the Chelsea Clinton tweet. Some of you know me well enough. You know I have knowledge in other areas. Let me tell you something about psychological warfare, mind manipulation. By her little tweet, that's psychological warfare, because that's going to encourage people to go down the damn rabbit hole.
It's called neuro-linguistic programming.
Oh, there's much more to it too.
Oh yeah.
I don't talk about that stuff on this channel because people, oh, you're evil.
No, it's the reality is it's called neuro-linguistic programming. It's one of the many forms that they use to brain rape people and twist people around. And it's also another form of smoke and mirrors that they like to use. Mm-hmm. But they try to distract you with shiny objects and
what's
such.
Trending today.
Exactly.
And this whole week, that's why I couldn't do a video. Because if I did a video this week, I was going to go off. Because trust me, I was going to go off on everyone. YouTubers, all followers, subscribers, because when we're talking about these issues right here, human and child trafficking, this stuff happens. It's real. But yet, you guys all want to focus on what's trending. You want to keep retweeting the same trends, which, by the way, when you guys do that, you all do it, and it blows up the feed. So when I share my video, people that's got over 100 followers, they may not see it because it's designed that way. It gets pushed underneath all the other people's tweets and retweets.
The relevant real news, the real happening stuff that really needs to be seen is buried.
And I hear people complaining, talk about share my stuff. Well, believe it or not, we do share your stuff. It's just, I'm going to tell you flat out, when I scroll down my Twitter feed, I'm not going past 10 things. Because otherwise, I would spend, because I got almost 160 followers, I would spend 10 minutes scrolling down just to reach to the bottom of the recent ones. And when I scroll back up, I already got 10 to 15 more that's been retweeted.
The
more followers you got, it's worse. The more people you follow. Let me rephrase.
I could literally spend all day on Twitter alone, trying to keep up and retweeting and commenting and retweeting and just in one or two areas, and I would only it'd just be cursory level without being able to put any heart and passion into it. And when you're dealing with a topic like this, you can't just do a cursory level response or comment. It deserves a little bit more. And if people would have gotten maybe just a little bit more involved with this problem when it really took off and it became a pandemic, we wouldn't be having this conversation tonight.
I'm glad you used the word pandemic, because what we are talking about is an epidemic.
It is, and it's
and that's what got my blood boiling. I mean, I could care less if it's This guy's pretty much, well, most part's been discredited on a bunch of stuff. I could care less about that. I care about the facts. I care about that this is happening. And you know what I care about? The fact that I watched, and I can count on one hand out of 154 people that follow me, 4 people shared it. The videos I did, shared the links I did. And I've shared a bunch of links. 4 people, same 4 people. My question is, why are you following me? If you don't listen to my content, you're not retweeting the stuff that should be important to you. We're talking about humans. Do you have a soul? Yeah. I do not usually go off because I hate it when other people do it. But it makes me question humanity. It makes me question to what you allowed yourself to become numb to by only following what's trending, by being distracted. That's my issue. That's my problem.
My question has, and I've asked this question for about the last 2.5 years, and nobody seems to have an answer for it. I don't know why they call it humanity anymore, because what is so humane about humanity? And I'm going to leave it with that. And we're going to be back on Wednesday night, probably around 7 o'clock, my time, Central Time.
8 o'clock Eastern.
Yeah, and we'll be touching on this and a couple other topics that are very pressing that we need to touch on before you go on vacation. And
my vacation's not happening, so I won't do my annual disappearance probably till around September and October. So those who don't know, September and October, I don't care. You won't see me on social media anywhere. That's my time to reflect. My time to, because researching this stuff brings negativity in your life. That's my time to do some cleansing. You know, what did I learn this year? Did I achieve my goals? Yes, my year starts all over in October.
No, I'm going to be taking off. I've got a work assignment that I have to actually exit the scene for a little while. I can't really say a whole lot about it, but I'll be indisposed of here in a couple weeks. And so but I don't know quite how long I'm going to be indisposed of, but we're going to be talking about a couple of things that we had when Drew and I first hooked up back about 6 months ago now.
Something like that.
An issue that we had been putting on the back burner and something that we'd been wanting to talk about and never quite getting the, I don't know if it's just something that got pushed to the back burner.
No, because it's not that it gets pushed to the back burner. It's because that's the problem with the world today. There is so many important issues, so many things that come up that you want to jump on it when it's in the now, like the school stuff. How I've been hammering that out. I'm still not done with that.
Oh, we're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about that on Wednesday night too.
But every time you turn around, it's like something new. I mean, it's just like this week. This came up, which conveniently came up as I was researching, basically same stuff. And this is what, guys, listen to me. This is why it's important to find some time in your lives to take a break, especially if you do research.
Yeah.
Take a break, turn it all off, get away from it for a day, 2, a week. I mean, I do about a month. And reflect on yourself. Reflect on what you've taken in up to that point, because you take in so much information. And it can build up on you. You might not realize it. I mean, last year, by July, I was done. I mean, covering all the stuff we were covering, talking about all the things, all the negativity that was going around. It was too much. I needed a break. I wasn't the only one, but I didn't realize why I needed a break. And trust me, the things I'm working on has taken a toll already. It's just I'm aware of it. I'm knowing when to chill, just like I know not to come on when things are starting to really get to me because nobody's sharing, nobody's talking about something that's very important, something that has actual facts to it. 'Cause human and child trafficking does happen. I'm tired of seeing it put under the, brushed under the rug. Or, in this case, a group that's screwing things up right now, that where it's going to end up becoming what Pizzagate became, or it's going to end up in mainstream news, and well, guess what? This stuff don't happen out here. It's fake news. What everybody's talking about, this human and child trafficking, that don't happen. It's drugs that are being pushed through here, nothing else. That's what I don't want to see happen, because the fact is, it's coming through our borders.
Yep.
And it's infecting. That's why I said epidemic. It's infecting every niche of our communities, clear into our school systems. I'm not done with the school stuff.
Yeah, we gonna be hitting on that. The only thing that I can say for Wednesday night, you're probably not gonna want to have little ones in the room. It'll probably be an age-restricted show. Just for the simple fact that things might get a little bit hot. And the topics that we're going to be discussing may or may not be controversial. Some things are not necessarily for the, not that I'm going, because I'm certainly not going to censor myself like I do here on Sons and Daughters of Liberty. When I'm on Free Spirit Press News, I tend to let it all fly. And I do not censor the chat for the most part. But we will be talking about the school shootings. We will be talking about this, going back and talking about the trafficking issue, the information that I've been able to find out, and I'm sure that Drew will have found out some more stuff about them as well.
Yeah, I've been in contact with a few other people that I've from various other groups and organizations. Right now, I'm trying to get reconnected back up with Baca.
And, oh, good. Baca's they would have a skinny on them on this group as well.
Yeah, because I've done back when my first magazine and websites and stuff, we always promoted their stuff and worked with a couple of those guys. So yeah, I'm definitely. I just, like I said, different platform, and I'm reaching out to a few other people that I normally.
There's a few others, and we'll also be talking about the Great Chicago invitation that did happen, or did it? So there'll be a whole bunch of things. Bring your popcorn. Bring your.
That is a subject I've been dying to tear into.
Oh, we gonna tear into that one. That's why I said, did the Great Chicago invitation happen, or did it not? We'll be tearing into that one and so much more. So Wednesday night, folks, bring your popcorn, bring your margarita, bring your coffee. Make sure you got your smokes. If you don't smoke, well, whatever trips your bick, be ready. Probably going to be about a 2 to 3 hour show, but we'll probably break it up into a 2-part show so that we got we can take time to have a little bit of a break, give everybody else a 5-minute break, and then come back for part 2 for that one. So be ready for a rather extensive and probably a heated show. We might even have other people that may or may not chime in for the show. I don't know. You know, we'll see when Wednesday night gets here. 7 o'clock Central Time, 8 p.m. East Coast. Free Spirit Press News.
5 o'clock Pacific.
Yeah, I always forget that them poor people lost out there out on that far coast. I always forget about those people. They're kind of like lost in space, you know. Because they're so far behind us.
Yeah.
I always forget about them people. And if you really want to get technical, 6 p.m. Mountain Time. Because that some of the stuff that we're going to be talking about, it does fall in Mountain Time. So y'all might want to be there. Set your reminders. I'll be setting up the event tomorrow when I get back to my computer. I'll be setting the event up on the computer. So be ready for a wild night of oh wow type information. But just remember, folks, and I'm going to leave you with this, and then I'm going to sign out. What has become so humane about humanity? Think on that, folks. Free Spirit Press News. I'm out.
We're going to wrap up with, like I said, guys, just because of what's going on or how it wants to get spun, the facts are this stuff is happening. Fact is, there's a link in my description. 160 kids rescued. Read it for yourselves. Do your own research. Come up with your own opinions and views. But do not underestimate, do not diminish the fact that this isn't happening. Like I said, there's only 3 ways to bring humans into this country. It's our border, it's our seaports, and it's by air. And in closing, stop judging. Be so judgmental. You know, I keep seeing that here of late. People, address a person because they're past. You walk a mile in that person's shoes. Like I said, I pointed out in the beginning of this video, I knew a man that did 20 years. He dedicated his life to make sure people wouldn't repeat his mistakes. But yet, in some people's opinion, he's a ex-felon. You know, some people, and you should give that man praise because he did something that most people can't. And that's get out of that system. The system's meant to keep you in. You know, we're seeing all this stuff going on. You know, I can't judge people by what they talk about. They have a right to their opinions and views. I respect that. If I lose that respect, then I'm no better than the scum of the earth. There's a reason why we call humanity humanities, why we have souls. You know, maybe it's time that all of us take a look in that mirror. You know, quit blaming a whole group for just bad apples. Because every group has their bad apples. Don't care what it is. And for those, this stuff, I can prove to you they do. So we don't even need to go down that road. Stop judging. Start caring. Better yet, start giving a fuck. And for those that caught this stream, You caught it while it wasn't age restricted, because I will age restrict this one, the previous one, and the one I did Monday. Start actually caring. Start talking about this. Like I said, don't need to go all the way out to Tucson, Arizona. It's happening right in your own backyards. Pointed it out. Get with your own communities in your area. Start addressing this. Pay attention to that whole missing children and missing persons flyers that are posted in your local Walmart that most of you probably didn't even know was there. In fact, I'm going to prove it because I'm going to go to Walmart tomorrow, take a picture of one. Then I'm going to the convenience store and taking a picture of the other one. They're there. Let's stop sweeping these talks under the rug like it doesn't happen. It does, and it needs addressed. You know, if anything, any of us can put all of our differences aside for it. It should be for a child. Think about that. You all have a good night. I'll see you in the next video.